We need to talk about the Olympics because the business behind the Olympics is fascinating. And it's gotten so incredibly expensive that many countries don't even want to host the Summer Olympics anymore. But let me explain. Now, depending on who you ask, everyone seems to have a different opinion of how the Olympics are going in Paris. NBC will tell you that they are breaking viewership records and on pace to make more than $1.25 billion in ad sales, while local businesses will tell you that their shops and restaurants are less crowded than anticipated. The competition looks spectacular on TV, as 95% of the venues are existing or temporary infrastructure, and many are built in or around iconic monuments like the Eiffel Tower. However, on the other hand, triathlete practice was delayed several days to elevated E. coli levels in the Seine River, despite a $1.5 billion cleanup project, and swimmers are quietly complaining about the shallow pool at 2.15 meters deep, impacting their ability to set new world records. This is sort of all par for the course, though. The Olympics have become one of the most confusing and frustrating events in sports, with the bidding process now less competitive than ever, and budgetary concerns only making things worse. Now, the story starts in 1984. Los Angeles was given a major leg up in negotiations with the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, because it was the only city that bid to host that year's Olympics. LA also already had existing stadiums and infrastructure, so the city didn't need to promise new state-of-the-art facilities to secure the event. And when you combine that with the lucrative media market in America's second biggest city, these factors caused TV revenue for the 1984 Summer Olympics in LA to increase 226% from the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow, going from 88 million to 287 million. As a result, the 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympics became the first Summer Olympics ever to turn a profit, finishing with a surplus of $215 million that year. It was a well-run event with a great outcome. The United States and Los Angeles saw a massive influx of cash from out-of-town visitors, and the global marketing appeal can't be understated. However, and perhaps more importantly, it proved to everyone that the Olympics could actually be profitable, not just a high-profile cash-burning activity. This, in turn, led to a bidding frenzy. For example, after Los Angeles bid against itself for the 1984 Olympic Games, the IOC received 12 hosting bids for the 2004 Olympic Games. This gave the IOC leverage to make demands. These demands included smaller things like better athlete hospitality and revenue sharing agreements, but it also included bigger and more expensive demands, like the IOC making host countries build permanent billion-dollar stadiums and expand public transportation infrastructure. It's also worth mentioning that the IOC saw a 3x increase in bids from developing countries, as they viewed the Olympics as an efficient way to increase tourism quickly. The only problem is that this combination of factors fundamentally changed the economic equation behind hosting the Olympic Games, or in simple terms, host countries had to make expensive promises to the IOC, which in turn increased the event's expenses and meant less money could flow down to the bottom line. For context, London went $13 billion over its initial budget of $5 billion in 2012. Sochi went $41 billion over its initial budget of $10.3 billion in 2014. And Rio de Janeiro went $6 billion over its initial budget of $14 billion in 2016. Furthermore, a recent Oxford University study found that the average cost to host the Olympics is 3 times the bid price, and not a single Olympic event, summer or winter, has stayed on budget over the last 60 years. These escalating expenses are bad in a vacuum, but they get even worse when you consider how higher expenses have impacted each host country's profitability. For example, Beijing in 2018 only generated $3.6 billion in revenue off $40 billion in spending. London in 2012 only generated $5.2 billion in revenue off $18 billion in spending. And Tokyo in 2021 only generated $5.8 billion in revenue off $13 billion in spending. The job claims are also often overstated because most of the roles are 1, temporary, and 2, given to people who already have jobs. Olympic security costs have skyrocketed post 9/11 too, with the average host country now spending over $1 billion on security expenses, compared to Sydney's $250 million expense in 2000. Now, to be fair, Paris is doing a better job than most host cities. They only went a few $1 billion over budget. LOL. And 95% of the venues are existing or temporary structures. Some of these expenses are also going to be used long after Olympic athletes leave the city, like the $1.5 billion Seine River cleanup. However, the IOC takes over 50% of television revenue generated at each Olympic event, and many cities seem to now be realizing that the juice isn't always worth the squeeze. Let me give you a few examples. Los Angeles was awarded the 2028 Summer Olympics in somewhat of a PR move after Boston, Rome, Budapest, and a bunch of other cities dropped out of the race in 2024. Salt Lake City was recently awarded the 2034 Winter Games after no one else submitted a bid, and Australia also won a one-country race to host the 2032 Summer Games. The IOC has already taken steps to fix this problem, revamping its bidding process to allow for multi-city, multi-state, and multi-country bids. But it feels like the pendulum is swinging back in the other direction, with many countries understanding that the Olympics isn't a great use of taxpayer money, unless the IOC eventually reduces its demands. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. I make weekly videos breaking down the business and money behind sports.